So for those of you that don't know, here in episode 2, we like to play a game of how do we catch one of the other hosts as we're answering a potentially compromising, cancel-worthy question. Who are you voting for, Brandon?
Who's paying
Oh,
me?
wow. Wow.
Hot out of the gates.
That just clicked really well right there, Brandon.
Oh, man. He's playing the politician game. That's right. Who's paying me the best?
Yeah.
Listen,
all right. Well, hey, let's go, Brandon. It's your turn, buddy.
Oh.
All right. Welcome to episode 2, where we're going to be talking about how do we provide value to people in 2024. So,
I mean, it's actually interesting, the idea of providing value, and then the fun political banter that we're kind of going through there. Yeah, I'd really love to ask the candidates how they provide value, like actually, not some bullshit that they just say.
They definitely they'll go circular. Well, I think that's why reform is necessary. Yeah, buddy, but what reform? Tell me more.
Yeah.
How? I think gone are the days where they actually give you the mechanics of how they're going to do it. They just tell you what you want to hear and run you in circles until you forget what the question was. And so hopefully this is not that kind of episode. Where it's just a bunch of circular BS that's all conceptual. And I think that we're all agreed that we're here to definitely give some more applied insights versus the overly academic stuff. So, I mean, Steve, you mentioned something in last episode. So for those of you that haven't heard that yet, go catch that. But, you mentioned the academic world. And I think that might be a great place for us to maybe dig into some of this stuff in terms of, when we think about giving value, do you need a degree in 2024 to provide value and be a valuable person for whatever it is that you're doing? So I'd love to, throw it over to you first and hear your thoughts on what you think.
There's my thoughts.
You said no. Like you're refuting my past, or you're refuting that an academic degree is necessary?
So, I mean, is it the answer, if it's a yes and no answer, is a degree necessary to provide value in 2024? The answer is no. But asterisks on this one, okay, in parentheses, I do think that going through the process of getting a degree, or schooling at the very least, is a valuable experience for most people. And if you've not gone and done, I don't think you have the right to necessarily say going through institutional education, blah, 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 is BS or one of the other things that you hear. So I'm happy I went to 2 years of school and I got things and value out of those 2 years of school. But on the other side of it, I also can see where if I had continued to go to school, paying off that debt would be something that was frustrating to me. So, because I do think in today's day and age, there's a lot of different ways to gain knowledge, and not just experiential knowledge where you're using your hands, but just to truly learn things that are legitimate and have been studied and have peer reviews and have all of those things that are necessary to make sure that we're learning the right things, because there's a lot of BS that's floating around out there. So there's my slightly longer winded answer on that.
All right. No, I think that definitely encapsulates, and definitely, you're a great testament to what you've built with your business franchises and your own professional experience, and even your Super Bowl ad, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point. But yeah, I would agree with that. Brandon, what's your perspective? Do you need a degree to be valuable in 2024? Is that where you've made most of your money, is related to dietetics?
For dietetics, I mean, we're still working on that process, but yeah, kind of what Steve was saying too. I was in the same boat because my first degree, I got a marketing degree, but I don't feel like I really learned much about the actual skills, hard skills with marketing. I felt like I learned that while I was working, but the skills I did learn were how to build relationships with people, and I guess essentially network, if that's the word to use. And yeah, a lot of the connections that I made from going to school I ended up becoming really good. Um, I guess a big reason why I am able to DJ as they to the volume that I do today, and it's all because I went to school. I didn't go to school for DJing, but all the opportunities came because I did go to school. But yeah, with that being said, I think there is value there to be said. Just being able to interact with people and learn from that aspect. But that there's other avenues where you can do that. I mean, like literally, like Run Club right now, it's like those are blowing up like crazy. Who was it? Who was it? I'm on Do Not Disturb.
Oh yeah, mine's
Uh,
on the serve too. So
but yeah, like
Well, it
just
wasn't mine because my Apple
it was
stuff
mine.
isn't connected to my
Mine
computer.
pinged. Yeah, mine pinged.
uh but yeah, and so it is there is value there. It just with it depends on the direction you want to go. For myself with dietetics, that's not something that I could just decide to become a dietitian and be like, all right, well, I don't need school. It's was something like that, and I make that argument too with like if you want to go into engineering, if you want to go into medical field where it's like, oh, I can't just become a doctor, I don't need to go to school. It's like, oh, the boards would beg to differ. Good luck. But with all that to be said, I think it is you make what you get what you put into it with school, but it's not to say that it's the only way to come out and be successful. And especially now, yeah, with 2024, especially how much it's costing on average for students to go. So it really just depends on what your goals are, what direction you want to go career wise. Again, all from my perspective. I mean, even in my first when I first went to college first time, I think it was my junior year, I was doing public speaking, and the second speech I gave in public speaking was college isn't for everyone. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of ironic, but it's kind of true. And everyone in that class would have had a background. It could have been a communications major, it could have been a business major. There were some medical students in there or pre-med students in there. So that class, it was speaking to whoever it was speaking to. But if you're a med student, it's like, oh no, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not becoming a physician's assistant for by not going to school. So with my perspective though, I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to go because again, yeah, I wouldn't be able to probably be DJing still to this day for like there was like a small up and coming artist named Taylor Swift. I got to DJ for one of her concerts, and so it was because of a connection I made while I was at school. So stuff like that's kind of cool to be able to look back at. And I even joked that I'm like, I think I got like a degree in DJing from here based off what I've done. So really cool to look back. But at the end of the day, I could have probably still had become somewhat successful in DJing. Might have been a little harder outside of school, but with all that to be said, it's I don't know. I don't think it was like a make or break type of thing. And all the marketing skills I learned were outside of school. So, but yeah, with dietetics though, I had to go to school in order to become a dietitian. So again, really just depends on your direction that you want to go with your career or wherever it may be with work.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And there are definitely things that when you think about a doctor, you would hope that they have an education. When you think about other soft skills that are more related, like marketing, I would consider more of a soft skill thing. I would consider maybe lawyering, right? Law school. I think that that's probably a hard skill because there's such a vast amount of information. Being an accountant, do you need a CPA? Maybe not, but I think that it definitely allows people a different depth of understanding a lot of the foundational elements that you just don't get when you're on the job. Because you're going to get, and this is why I think, hands down, as someone that's spent way too much money on over like 70 different certifications and working on a doctorate, I wouldn't go and pursue the same thing that I'm doing right now. With that said, I'm kind of in the same boat as Brandon in that like the relationships and things that you accumulate along the way, but you can get those from any institution, whether it's like an organization. Um, but I would have gone back and I would have hired a mentor and I would have spent maybe a fraction of the cost. I would have maybe hired a coach a lot sooner for my own fitness journey and like helping me navigate a lot of that stuff. I would have hired professionals that are currently in the trenches that I really respected and had the values that I really appreciated and aligned with out of the gate. Um, but I think that, again, it's highly contextual. If you want to go be a great employee, education might be a really good thing for some people because it gives you a unique skill. Like it gives you a training and a skill set that you can come in and immediately provide a little more value that if you have minimal experience, you might not be able to give. And so you're going to throw yourself at the mercy of someone and be like, hey, I need some development. I'm willing to give you all the effort that I have, but I have no skill set. And so that's a very different conversation as an employer. And having hired, and built teams, like I would actually, as a training manager, I would only hire one person at a time that I thought would be a project. Maybe they had all the personality traits. Maybe they were just electric on the floor and like they were just a good, great person. I would only take one and I would keep them on for like 3 months. And then I would hire, another potential like developmental opportunity or project. But I think that teams that hire too many people that are either similar because they like them or they're great people, I think they really do open themselves up to potential catastrophe. Because now you have to develop all these people. And especially in the entrepreneurial world, if you're trying to drive towards a goal and you're constantly looking at the people behind you, like that's where, the people in the profits conversation, you're not going to have any margin necessary to pay those people if they're not delivering that value. So, I think it really just depends when we talk about what do you want to be known for and how do we give value. I think that one of the most fulfilling things for me is making and kind of helping people achieve the next professional level. I don't like to coach clients much anymore. Do I still coach? Absolutely. I think that it's imperative that people that are teaching a skill set are still involved in that thing. Imagine being a business professor at a college and it's been 30 years since you've had a business. Well, AI is about to uproot that entire industry and change how we do things. So, you have to keep your fingers in the work, but maybe that's not the majority of what you do. Maybe at that point, as you give value, you're going to elevate your ability to give value, which means that you probably need to condense who you're giving it to because you can't help everyone, unfortunately, at the same time. So the great mark of a leader, as I kind of wrap up my segment here, is like your quality as a leader is basically derived from your ability to create more leaders, right? Your quality as a coach is your ability to generate more results. So then how do those two things naturally evolve? And this is why I think a lot of people in the education space that aren't necessarily teachers, they go from doing the skill to now building a business. Should they necessarily be the people teaching it? No, I don't think so, because they're not formally educated. Like they know a lot of things and methods that seem to work, but do they have the foundational knowledge? Not necessarily, which means that they need to hire people that are going to be better than them. And I think a lot of people really struggle with that. So just something to keep in mind of like, what is it that you're actually trying to do when you're giving value and who do you need to have around you to do that? I think that that's probably the best way to deliver value in 2024 is have the right people in your stack, you know?
So as you were talking, I'm just kind of like, oh, you know what? I'm curious, like for my brain, what does the average high school versus college graduate, what's the difference, all the things, and a quote came up here, and it seems to be referenced by something that looks like it might be real and reasonable in some research, but there's been no further investigating done, so this might be complete bullshit. I don't know. I googled it and we're listening to the internet right now, but under the assumption that this is factual, that's kind of this conversation, and there's going to be a lot of assumptions in there. It goes, over the lifetime of somebody who has had a college or has further education above and beyond high school, you will earn $1 million more. That's what they're saying. So 1 million more over a lifetime than someone with only a high school diploma or less is the earnings potential. There's questions, and I'm like, oh, do you work for those extra 4 years? Are you giving up 4 years of time, the cost of time, like invest it? Like there's all those things that I'm just kind of curious about in there that it obviously isn't answering. But nonetheless, when I look at that, I'm like, so you're looking at 4 to 5 years of time. Let's say 4 years on average, you go through college. You're going to earn $1 million more. Now you're going to pay out somewhere from, it obviously doesn't say, are you going for master's, your doctorate? It doesn't talk about any of those things, and school costs range. But I remember when I went to school, the actual price was somewhere around like $35,000 a year. So That feels like a good middle of the road price today. I know that you guys have spent way more than that, but so it's kind of
Mhm.
like, all right, would I spend $140,000 to make $1 million over my lifetime? My answer is no. When I look at it in that exact lens, because you're going to work for 40-ish years, assuming you start work around 25 and you retire at 65. So round numbers. So for 40 years, $1 million extra after spending that 140. So let's say 860,000. This is all simple math. So there's no, we're not talking about interest rates on loans and all of these things. But at the end of the day, it's like, oh, you're going to earn around an extra $20,000 a year,
Mhm.
is what that math is saying. A little bit over 21,000 and change, I believe. I feel like I could go and watch a few YouTube videos, find the right people to follow on Instagram, and educate myself with what's available to me to find an extra $20,000 a year that I can then go make work harder
Right.
doing other things. And
Okay.
again, this I made great relationships in college. I would never give those up. I had great experience living not at home. I don't want to give that up. But when I look at it from a dollars and cents point of view,
Mhm.
based off of this random thing that was found, I don't think spending that money and time to make an extra million off of that makes sense because there's other ways to go earn money. Now, are you going to go find those other ways? Are you going to do the work? All those things that comes into question. And
Mhm.
I'm saying on average, based upon what I'm assuming here, people don't do those things. So that's where they're missing out. But I can point you in a direction of a $4,000 course that can earn you $2,000 a day if you're interested, but you have to be motivated to go do the thing and learn the skill that so far after me doing it for 7 months, I'm starting to kind of become profitable, but I got a long ways to go until I'm good. Right. So that's
Mhm.
kind of just the random internet search to see what came up.
Yeah, I mean, having done obviously having built a curriculum and hopefully having it be valuable for the last group, we definitely did some market research and we found that is about a $10,000 in addition. The average person with a high school diploma will earn somewhere in the mid 40s, high 50s with a bachelor's. The interesting part was that there was a diminishing return going from a bachelor's to a master's. I think it was like 5 grand maybe. But the interesting part beyond that was that when you went from a master's to a doctorate, you actually saw a 40% jump. So a lot of that is just like, again, where do you want to be a terminal subject matter expert? And I think that you hit it beautifully, Steve, in that, it's not necessarily what you learn. It's more like along the lines of how you leverage it. And I think that you're also alluding to something is really important for people to understand is that there's a risk tolerance, right? So it's safe when people are trying to go and work for someone, so they will put that sunk time. I say sunk time, but put that time in to have a secure or a better opportunity to go work for someone where they'll be employed and they won't have to necessarily leverage those skills. So all that to say, I don't think the entrepreneurial journey is for everyone because there are times where you will want to shit your britches for sure. Like you don't know if you're going to make a dollar every day, and some people aren't equipped for that, especially when I think about, relationships that I've had in the past and some partners that I've seen, been with, like they were highly risk averse and they weren't about that life whatsoever. So, I think ultimately figuring out like how much are you willing to risk and how much do you want to earn? Um, I have a 10-year goal for $15 million. And so like, how do we make that a thing? And that's not something that I could do at a company. Is it something I need a doctorate for? Probably not. And so I think I wouldn't have had matured had I not had those experiences and had I learned for myself that it's not about learning everything you can before you get started. I think it's finding the right people to help you get started and just nudging you forward and keeping you on the right tracks. But Brandon, I mean, what are your thoughts? Obviously you're still in school and you're like, well, not still in school, but you're wrapping up um your dietetic stuff. Like, what do you think about having invested that time in that?
Yeah, and kind of going back even to those statistics too, and this is something even my dad kind of brought up to me a few years ago because I actually considered dropping out. I think 2 years in, like, oh, I don't know, do this. There is also, I don't think that's whatever that study is takes into account, discipline and all that aspect as well, because there is I have to assume there's a some sort of drive even to say, oh, okay, I'll go to college. I remember some kids in my junior year of high school even being like, yeah, I'm already on track to just do community college, and even then, it'd be super interesting to even see that. Well, like that percentage of track and there, so that's where you can go over all over you with the data on that. Like, what's the correlation between dedication and determination and all that aspect with people who do this keep wanting to go and get their doctorates. They have a bit more of a motivation or more motivation, more of a drive to be successful. Even, I mean, that master's one even made a little bit more sense with how many people I've heard that some of their employers are even like, oh, you get a free master's or I'll pay like 75% of your master's. So it's like, all right, I might as
Yeah.
well type of mentality that almost falls back
Yeah.
into that employee type mentality. And so, but yeah, even in that, it's interesting too with the dietetics field. I actually, when I went back, I think I was 25, 26, and I was like super insecure. I'm like, I'm going to be in a lab with 10 kids. I was like the 10th or whatever. And it's going to be like, oh, I'm old. I'm going to be with a bunch of kids. And I didn't realize though that this field, it's a lot of second career changes, or a lot of people that just because there wasn't much awareness behind it. And it was interesting too, because it's almost like a stereotype in the dietetics field where they say, yeah, so you probably all are type A type of personalities to some degree, because you probably wouldn't be doing dietetics if that wasn't the case. And it was a weird thing I kept hearing from all the professors. I'm like, is that a stereotype? I guess so. I guess like when I'm looking at it, everyone's backgrounds were like, oh, I was one of my friends, she was a doula, and then now she's a dietitian for UFC in Vegas. Another one of my friends, she was went to NAU, and I got a background in exercise science and is a personal trainer, and she absolutely loves it. And she's had conversations about trying to incorporate nutrition into their programs and stuff. So there is a type of personality when it comes to dietetics, which again kind of is that drive. And a lot of dietitians too that I've talked to are either striving for which was a goal of mine, was to work with a professional sports team, or a lot of them end up going into the opening up their own practice, which essentially is owning their own business. So it is interesting to see how my life and life experiences have also kind of gravitated in that direction, where I'm like, oh, I guess this actually does line up with my values and my beliefs and everything when it comes around school. Ironically, as I had a speech about like, oh, school might not be for everyone, so I'm going to go get another bachelor's. But with all that to be said, which is I say it all the time now because of you. I say it in my daily conversations. With all that to be said, literally
Oh,
that
memorize it.
I say it all the time. Yeah, I think it's school is kind of more like it's a barometer almost to see where with that study, again, with that one study, definitely a lot of rabbit trails that you can go, but it is just interesting now to kind of reflect on that, be like, oh, okay, this lines up. But
Yeah.
a lot of good stuff, it's school for everyone. We don't know, again,
Yeah.
depends on where you want to go and what your goals
Yeah.
are.
Well, I think that that's a really great way to more or less highlight the need that the end is what you should probably figure out how to get towards versus like just starting something. And I think a lot of people really start school too early. I think 18 years old is almost like a predatory age to be like, hey, you need more education. And I think it really perpetuates a lot of the stuff that we see today. And having worked with 23,000 coaches and counting, like it's everyone wants more information before they like put a foot in the pool. And, that's not really necessary. And it's when people get started, they kick themselves because they realize it's like a waste of time. So, for me, I would just say get started, find someone that's doing some cool stuff that you admire and you look up to. And, like the three of us have very unique skill sets. So if anyone is ever looking for like some guidance or some mentorship, like we're happy to connect with you and give you some of that, or I don't want to speak for you guys, but I'm pretty sure that we would all say the same thing. So, any closing remarks as we wrap up here at the 25-minute mark?
If you want to lose weight, don't eat lunch.
We're gonna make that a shirt. That's our first merch. Just have a circle with a line through it that says lunch.
Instead of never skip dessert, this will be always skip lunch.
Oh my god. So you can have dessert. It's trade-offs,
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah, exactly. Always skip lunch. That's the mantra. That's the mantra. So joking aside, and I don't know if your specific situation calls for you to not eat lunch. I'll say that. Um, but all joking aside, and the thing that you kind of mentioned that I think really wraps it up is everybody goes to college in the idea that they're seeking further education. And the reality is, college is not the only way to gain further education. And every single day, every single week, month, year that passes by, there are more ways and easier ways to grab more education if you're willing to go down those roads and you're willing to look. Um, don't just simply Google stuff and assume that it's always true. For example, this statement that we said on here, I have no idea, but go and learn and understand, try to read and learn about both sides, listen to people that talk about both sides of whatever it is you're learning about. Because I'm sure there is, and just because it's the thing, there probably is somebody out there that says don't ever eat lunch, and that's the best way to achieve a certain goal. But then there's also going to be another person that says you should always eat lunch for some reason as well. And when you listen to those two sides of a debate, of a story, of a whatever, that's how you have the chance to learn, find different point of views, and just at least start to educate yourself. Or on the very like kind of easy side of things, start to ask more questions on your own to then go research and learn. That's how I learn best. Go listen to something. Oh, how'd they do that? And then I go look that. Oh, how'd that happen? And then go there. And before I know it, I'm 10 to 20 how did they's, how did that's, whatever in. And I've learned a whole lot of things that I never would have learned if I wasn't being inquisitive about the thing. So that would be the delineator that I would really say on this.
I think it's perfect way to close this out, because I mean, on the next episode we're talking about how to deliver value and how to be valuable in 2024. So not to open any loops, but thanks so much for joining us, guys. We will see you in the next episode. Thanks for being here. Like and subscribe.